Okay, this is the description of Quickdraw version 5.5's Loom Help weft with a pickup tools. So let me start from the Loom Help weft page, and when I click pickup, I'm getting a new display. In this case, what it's actually showing is the same weft sequence. I have a choice. It defaults to a Rigid Heddle display, where as I toggle, it will switch between shaft 1 and 2, and the blue and red lines there will show me where the pickup threads are. And talk that in more detail in a moment. If I don't hit the Rigid Heddle, it goes to a normal treadle loom, in which case I now have the choice of telling it how many physical treadles I have. For example, this is a 9-shaft, 13 treadle pattern. If I only had, say, 8 shafts or 10, I can actually set that, and it will tell me where I have to do those treadles. But let me start with the Rigid Heddle description. And when I go back to the beginning, it's going to alternate between the normal one shed rise, one shed low, and it bounces back and forth. Now you'll notice what I've done here is actually marked where the center of the pattern is. Every 4th thread and every 4th of the 4, so every 16 threads, there'll be a darker mark. What I actually did, so I'm going to have to go through and find individual threads on the loom. Okay, so when I start looking at a Rigid Heddle loom, the even shed's low or high, and the opposite as I move back and forth. For example, it's asking shot 3. It's looking for treadle number 4. Well, I only have 2 treadles. So it's going to tell me, okay, I want this treadle, only what I'm going to need to do is go, when I throw the shot, 2 threads have to be pulled down, so the shuttle needs to go over those 2 warp threads. And same here for a weft float. So now the question is how to find that. Let me start with a picture of what I actually did. So I've got the laptop sitting next to my loom. When I zoom in on the loom a little bit, so what I actually did is mark the center line on the loom as compared to the center line in the pattern. Every 4th thread is marked here, so I can count more quickly. Every 4th 4, so it's kind of a quartile grid, I've done in a darker line, and I simply duplicated that structure on this Rigid Heddle loom. So there's the center line, 4 of the 16 block threads. So if I'm looking for a thread that is 16 threads over, I can then find that thread quickly on the loom. So where I want to do a warp float, I would actually go through, so the left-hand float here, I would find that warp thread, raise that thread and the one before it, and now when I throw the shot, I'm on the upper tier of the shaft, so I can now actually create that float. And so for the next shot, it's actually going to want weft floats. So in this case, what I need to do is find the lower tier and take the shuttle under those 2 warp threads. So if I look at this one, I can see the upper tier of warp threads here. I can see the lower tier. I found that mark, raised that thread and the one next to it, and so that would actually give me the float I want fairly quickly and easily. And that was the technique I'd used to create the overall pattern here. So with a Rigid Heddle 2-shaft loom, I was able to weave this 9-shaft, 13 treadle pattern on the Rigid Heddle. So that gives me how the Rigid Heddle tools work, and that will tell me where all the pickups have to be as I weave through the pattern. You can see those come and go. The voice will actually indicate when there's a pickup thread active.
1 pickup.
And now if I turn off Rigid Heddle, now what I have is it's a standard treadle loom. The question becomes one of, okay, well, how many treadles do I have? Say this is a 13 treadle pattern. Say I only have 10 treadles. If I ask for physical treadles, just click in the positive, so I now have 10 treadles. So up to 10 treadles, it will give me those numbers. So for example, there would be treadle 10.
2.
As I advance, it will use the standard treadling.
1, 2, 1, 4.
So when I am now looking for physical treadle 11. What it's actually done is looked at all the treadles that are defined and figures I have less pickup if I use treadle 4. So it's giving me instructions, take treadle 4, do pickup on this end, that end,
1, 4,
and it just cycles through those
1, 2, 5.
until I get to the next pickup. In this case, it's a weft float, so I need to go under those 2 threads. Same basic technique for how to do that as I described on the Rigid Heddle. So that gives me the ability of doing pickup with either a treadle or a Rigid Heddle loom, and that is really what the pickup tools are about. Thank you.